Has your vet told you to lock your puppy inside until they're completely done with their vaccination schedule? Is your dog peeing on pee pads to avoid the door being opened and a gust of wind coming in and giving them parvo and them keeling over and dying in an instant? You're going to want to watch this video. That was I gave myself a drum roll there. But really, there are some real concerns about your dog getting parvo. Yes, dogs die from parvo. But I want to talk about what I see as a dog trainer, primarily from dogs who are not properly socialized, and talk about maybe some real intelligent ways that we can mitigate the risks of our dogs, our puppies, particularly getting sick, while still setting them up with a foundation in terms of socialization that will lend to a successful life, meaning like not a plethora of behavioral issues and, dogs being bounced from home to home and ending up in the shelter and all these kinds of things that can potentially happen as a result of poor or zero proper socialization. So I want to preface this by saying in this discussion, what I'm going to be talking about is dogs that are on a vaccination schedule and they did come from a reputable breeder. So not like a dog, a puppy, and when we're talking specifically about puppies here, okay? So I'm not talking about a puppy that your neighbor found under an abandoned house porch at, 5 weeks and you took it home and it's now 15 weeks and the dog has never seen a vet or anything like that. Like, we're not talking about that dog because that dog is at far more risk for a whole bunch of different reasons. We're talking about a healthy dog from a reputable breeder, which again doesn't mean a person who breeds dogs and charges $1,000. There's more factors that go into that, which is a whole nother video. But a reputable breeder who actually is concerned about the puppies that they produce, their temperament and their health, their longevity, and they're doing tests and they're making sure that they're pairing appropriate mother and father, dog, etc., etc. There's a lot of things that go into picking a good breeder. But for the sake of this discussion, we are talking about good, well-bred dogs, puppies, who are on a vaccination schedule but have not completed their vaccination schedule, okay? So, and the primary socialization window, depending on exactly where who you talk to or what you read, is up to 16 weeks or potentially up to 20 weeks. But I really like, up to 16 weeks. I think between 16 and 20, there's definitely some value there, but it's not as rich of an opportunity as up to 16 weeks. So that's roughly the age that a lot of puppies are finishing their vaccine schedules. I think between the 16 to maybe even 24 week mark, I think 16 weeks is pretty average where they're kind of finishing that or shortly thereafter. But again, like if we wait until 16 or 18 or 20 weeks or older before we are getting our dog out there and socializing them, we've missed the boat. Okay. Socialization, and again, I'm not talking about dogs playing with other dogs specifically or exclusively. I'm not talking about your dog interacting with other people and dogs exclusively. Socialization, what I want you to think about is far broader than that. It's giving your dog positive exposure, so positive experiences, being exposed to people, places, things, sights, smells, sounds, all of the above, variety, repetition, more so variety. If you get good exposure, good variety, you're setting your dog up to be far more healthy socially and physically in some senses. I won't get a whole lot into that. Now, also, I should preface all of this by saying, consult your vet for physical health needs, right? Don't just take it from me. I'm giving you some of my personal opinion and some things that I have experienced working with families, training their dogs, speaking to potential clients for years. Okay, so always consult your vet. Be happy to share this with your vet and get some feedback. Maybe they say that guy's crazy. Don't listen to anything that he says. Okay, weigh all the information that you have. Get a second opinion. So I'm not giving medical advice for your dog, and don't take this as medical advice, but I'm going to share some things that I have seen repeatedly, and kind of my view on some things. So when I'm talking about socialization, that's just getting your dog positive exposure to things. So if we have when inside that socialization window, we are basically shaping and molding our dog either into a resilient dog who is not particularly fazed or concerned about everyday things like a dog walking by or a spoon falling and hitting the floor or somebody suddenly standing up off the couch or a car driving by, like all of these things. They're just normal, right? If we build up a resilient puppy through proper socialization and interactions at a young age, and particularly up to about 16 weeks, we are building up a resilient puppy that can go out and be exposed to things at the pet store or go to the hardware store, or go downtown or go to the park, and they're not freaking out about everything because everything's just normal. But if we have a dog, on the other hand, that stays in one room, and I'm going to the complete opposite extreme. I don't anticipate that a lot of people watching this video are doing this, but for the sake of contrast, if we have a dog that is brought up in just one room or inside a house and never leaves the house, right? We've got a vet that comes to our house, gives the shots, and the dog's never stepped foot outside. Once that dog's 5 months old, 16, 20 weeks old, 4 or 5 months, if you take him outside then, now everything is foreign, and they're very likely going to be scared, timid, jumpy, nervous about everything. Car drives by, oh my gosh, what was that? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Somebody drops their phone on the floor. Oh my gosh, something's gonna happen to me. They're freaking out. They're running away. They're maybe biting at the leash because they want to flee. They're shaking. All these things. Somebody walks up to them with another dog. I've never seen a dog before. What the heck is this? Oh my gosh. If you think about the equivalent for if it were children or yourself or myself, if we get to be 20 years old and we've lived in the world, right? And we see somebody on a bike, whatever, doesn't faze us. We see a car drive by, doesn't faze us. We see an airplane take off, oh, that was neat. It's not a big deal. We grew up with these things. But if we spent 20 years of our life, and because I'm really just throwing out somewhat of a random number, but a 5-month-old dog mentally, by a lot of respects, is considered an adult dog, right? Physically maturing, they're not, but in terms of mentally, by a lot of measure, they're basically an adult dog. So they've spent all their formative period already. Okay, so if you think about a human who's let's just say even 15 years old. 15-year-old goes out and has never been exposed to any of these things, steps outside for the first time and sees a bike go by and hears a car drive by and then sees a plane take off. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to take that in. I mean, it could take me days to recover from that. That could be a traumatizing experience. My whole world just got flipped upside down. I've never seen any of these things. They're scary. They're loud. They're moving fast. Oh my gosh, is this threatening to me? I don't know. So many questions and concerns that I otherwise wouldn't have if I've been exposed to them at a younger age. So I see this all the time in dogs that come to us for training that are 6 months old already, or a year or 2 years or older, and they weren't properly socialized. And if I have a plastic water bottle and I crinkle it in my hand, they pee. They pee themselves, or they freak out and they start shaking. For the next 3 hours, they're shaking because a sound. I produced a sound that they weren't familiar with. or another dog is present and they're just not sure what to do around other dogs, or they see a cat, oh, and they just start quivering, or they start whining, you know, cortisol levels go through the roof. They're just, oh my gosh, I can't settle down. They're tense, you know, that's not good. That's not healthy for them at all to be in that state. And dogs who aren't properly socialized oftentimes spend an incredibly high percentage of their life in this kind of terribly unhealthy, bad hormones through the roof, blood pressure, anxiety, muscles tensed, like this is not good. I want a dog that can just relax, okay? Oh, pen drops, flipping through papers, no problem, right? Crumbling paper can also set some dogs into a frenzy because they weren't properly socialized. So that's exposing your dog to people, places, things, sights, sounds, and smells, other animals, etc., etc. So what I see, it seems increasingly, is some people's vets are making the recommendation that their puppy should literally not go outside and should be peeing on a pee pad or some other indoor potty device until they are fully vaccinated, and then they can go out into the world. And I have a real problem with this because I see so many dogs that were not socialized like this, that were kept locked up because either vet's recommendation or maybe the family just wasn't sure what to do around other dogs, or they got their dog after that key socialization period and it's already kind of nervous and skittish. So, or they have one bad interaction when they first get their dog where they're unsure, and then it's just like, oh, we just never took them around dogs again, or we never took them out of the house. We never had company over, and now, he's a year and a half and we think it's a problem, so we want to address it now. Well, these things can be addressed, but it's going to be a lot more work. And your dog's probably never going to be the same dog that they could have been if they were properly socialized in the first place. And we weren't trying to, retroactively fix all these behavioral issues that we now have. If you think about if you aid a sapling to grow into a healthy, straight tree, you've got a straight tree forever, okay? But if that sapling grows up like this, and then you want to make it a straight tree, you could maybe make it kind of a straight tree by trimming some things or pulling some things this way, or I don't know what you would do exactly, but you could probably, get it straighter, but it's never going to be that straight tree, right? That's not to say it's not going to still be a beautiful tree and you can't love that tree, but it didn't have what it needed to grow nice and even and straight in the first place. So it's never going to be that again. You can't go back and fix it to the way that you wanted it to be initially. So with your puppy, socialization is absolutely key. So there, again, like we're talking about dogs, particularly, like 10 to 16 weeks is when I'm seeing this a lot. I think it's important, as a side note, again, potentially another video, puppies should not leave the mom before 8 weeks. And if your breeder will allow them to stay for an extra couple weeks, that can be hugely, hugely beneficial. I can hardly stress that enough. A dog that leaves the mother at 6 weeks versus a dog that leaves the mother at 8 weeks, completely different. Dog that leaves the mother at 8 weeks versus 10 weeks, very different. A dog that leaves the mother at 6 weeks versus 10 weeks, not even comparable. Not even comparable. I mean, I have dogs that come in for training all the time that left mom early and, weren't social. I mean, so many issues. So, like, what are some good ways to socialize? What are some good places and things to do with your puppy when they're in that age range where they've started their vaccinations, but they haven't completed them? You want to be health conscious because your dog can catch stuff, right? I'm not trying to say your dog can't catch stuff and die, because you can. Humans can, dogs can. It's a reality. So you do want to be somewhat smart about it, right? So I wouldn't recommend places that have high traffic of dogs, especially high traffic of dogs with an uncertain health. So like a dog park, probably not a good place for a puppy that is not fully vaccinated. My opinion, probably not a good place for a dog. Period. That's my opinion. I don't really like dog parks for a number of reasons. But that is a place that gets a high traffic of dogs, which there's no screening. Like, you don't know that any of those dogs are vaccinated or if they have a disease or whatever have you. And there's really nothing keeping an unhealthy dog from going in there. So not a good place. Not a good place for your young, not fully vaccinated puppy. Pet store, similar situation. They get a lot of dogs in and out of there, and you don't know what the health of those dogs is either. So again, that's probably a place, if I had a young puppy who is not completely vaccinated, not through their schedule, I wouldn't be taking my puppy to the dog park or to the pet store. Another thing to kind of consider is that if you live in an apartment complex or someplace like that where there is, it's dog friendly and there's a high frequency of dogs like pottying in the same area, that's probably one of the more trickier situations, where you're gonna have to figure that out. Like, are there dogs there that you are unsure of their health, or they seem like they're maybe not well kept in terms of their health status? Maybe try to avoid that. But hopefully there's a different area maybe that you can potty and clean up after your dog, and it won't be an issue. That's not like the primary, here's the 20 by 20 area that, 70 other dogs go to every single day. Like, yeah, that's probably not a good place for your dog to be. Some good places to socialize your young puppy who has not completed their vaccination schedule could be a friend's house who either doesn't have a dog at all or has a dog that you have witnessed with your own eyes actually interacting with other dogs in a healthy manner. So I would not take your puppy over to your friend's house who has the very reactive or dog that is resource guarding, or that plays so rough that it's hurting the other dogs and doesn't know when to stop and doesn't pick up on social cues, or does these kinds of things. You want to avoid that. But you can go to maybe just the park, not the dog park, but the park in an area that, yes, there are dogs flowing through there, on the day-to-day basis at any given park generally, but it's not necessarily a high frequency of dogs. They're not necessarily congregating in the same area. So, that's going to be a lot more safe than the dog park. Or if there's one area that like all the dogs go to every single day and there's dozens of dogs there. But, going to the park, you can get out and you don't necessarily have to be in the park. You could go to the park and stay in the parking lot, right? You could stay within a small area around your car and just interact with your dog there and let them get exposed to all the sounds and things that are at the park, nature and other cars and people walking by and rollerblades, all that kind of stuff. You could take your dog on car rides, simply, and not even necessarily, sorry, I gotta crack my back, not even necessarily get them out of the car, but just drive them around. That can be a great socialization experience. Even on your property or at your home, you could take your dog out to the sidewalk, right? So that they can, see all the things, right? See the dogs walking by across the street, hear the cars go by, see the cars go by, and have some positive interactions without, and by interaction, I just mean experiences, experiencing a car driving by, right? Because at that young age, most typical puppies are just going to be like, curiously, oh, what's that? Oh, interesting. And then it's gone, whatever. But if your dog sees its first car when it's 22 weeks old, he's probably going to run the other way. He's going to freak out. Okay. So age is so critically important. Let's see. So again, if we're going to talk about being smart and avoiding these high dog traffic areas with dogs that we are unsure of their health status, then really we should be talking about the vet's office also. Okay, because your dog's going to the vet to get their shots, presumably. That's where most dogs get their shots. And your vet's telling you, if your vet is telling you, not all vets are saying this, but I am hearing an increased number, it seems, here lately of vets that are saying, don't let your dogs go outside, even to potty. Okay. So you're at the vet's office where they have a high traffic of dogs and other animals, and their health status is one, unknown to you, and two, probably in a lot of cases, not good. Right? There are a lot of dogs that go there for just routine stuff, but also when dogs get sick, they go to the vet. Now, of course, I'm not necessarily comparing your vet's cleanliness to the dog park's cleanliness, right? Your vet is doing a much, much better job at sanitizing and cleaning up after there is if there is a dog with parvo there, they're probably taking precautions, cleaning after that dog, maybe having that dog go through a back hallway so it's not in the regular waiting room or whatever. But the reality is, sick dogs are in that space every day that they're open. And there could potentially be dogs that haven't yet been diagnosed with some sort of sickness when they enter the vet, or even when they leave the vet. It's possible. So they're not necessarily, cleaning up after. They obviously don't clean up after every single dog walks through that waiting room. So there is an inherent risk there. And I would argue a far greater risk with taking your dog to the vet than taking your dog out to your own backyard where other dogs don't have access to, and it's just your family. I mean, so I would say, I would ask, one, how many puppies do you know that a friend has had, or a cousin has had, or a family member, an acquaintance that has had a puppy who was on a vaccination schedule and did come from a reputable breeder? So not, oh, my pit bull ran into this German Shepherd that was down the street, and then they had puppies, and, I just gave them away for $100. We're not talking about this kind of dog that's potentially already has a compromised health. We're talking about well-bred dogs who are on a vaccination schedule, who have already had some of their vaccinations, and they're going out of the house. Okay. So how many of these kinds of puppies do you know or have you heard of that have gotten parvo and died, or gotten anything and died that wasn't directly related to like bad hereditary, bad genes? Okay. And then I would ask a second question: how many dogs do you know that now have terrible social etiquette, meaning they flee from things, they pee in the house, they tear things up. Maybe you have one of these dogs and you can't have company over, or you can't go to a friend's house because they have this dog, or you can't leave your dog at home. So you're missing social events because your dog has to have you there all of the time. Like, all of these things are contributed to and sometimes rooted in lack of or poor socialization in those formative weeks as a puppy. And I would say some recurring health issues can also be influenced by that. That poor or lack thereof socialization inside of that key formative period. When you think about humans, germs are good, right? There are some germs that we obviously want to avoid, and there are some things that can make us very sick, but many germs are arguably essential to a healthy gut, which impacts most everything that's going on in our bodies. So when we have dogs who maybe have recurring loose stool, meaning diarrhea, just like out of the blue, like all of the time, like multiple times in a month, or potentially multiple times in a week, dog just has diarrhea. Now, I see this a lot, and it's not necessarily like the most concerning thing, because sometimes dogs just get a hold of something and they they eat a little thing outside, and then it gives them diarrhea for a day. But if this is happening really frequently, then it probably is an indicator that your dog's gut or something about their internal workings is not in a very, very healthy state. If it can be put into an imbalance that quickly by almost nothing. And you know, I could extrapolate this to a whole lot of other things, but dogs that have recurring health issues, I feel like, and again, you could ask your vet more about this than myself, not a veterinarian, but I feel like a lot of other health issues that I see in clients that we have for training could be contributed to dog was not exposed to anything as a puppy. So now they don't have that immune system. They don't have that healthy gut to function properly and be exposed to some little things as an adult and not have their body just start to, you know, deteriorate, break down, not function as it should. So I say all this because I'm having this discussion with more and more people. So when your vet tells you that you should not take your dog outside of your home, literally some vets are saying this, you should not take your dog outside of your home, even to potty in your own yard, until they are fully through their vaccine schedule. I would maybe ask some more questions. And I mean, is your vet actually doing that with their puppy? I would be curious. And I would be happy to have a conversation with any vets that watch this video and don't agree or have some questions. I'd be happy to have a discussion and maybe learn some more myself. But I can tell you from my experience and what I have seen in clients and potential clients, the detriment is far greater in not getting your dog outside than it is in getting your dog outside before they're fully vaccinated. You are basically mitigating a what I would say a very, very, very small risk of your dog getting a life-threatening illness that they will not recover from. You're trying to mitigate that very, very small chance, and you're almost guaranteeing that the entire rest of your dog's life is going to be more stressful, and you're going to have more behavioral issues than you otherwise would have if you got your dog out and exposed them. So, hope that video was helpful and enjoyable. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. Like the video or unlike the video. Thumbs down it if you don't like it. And tell us why. And maybe we'll do another video on this one. All right. See you later.